Try to find a position that feels truly comfortable. If you can, gently close your eyes. Breathe in a deep, slow breath. And then exhale, very softly. Now, we will travel back together to a time long, long ago. So far back that there were no humans, no animals, no trees, no oceans, no sky. At that time, there wasn't even time in the way we understand it today. The ancient Greeks had a way of saying it that was very gentle, yet very profound. Before everything, there was only chaos. But chaos here is not the noisy confusion we talk about in everyday life. It is not a traffic jam, not a messy office, not a mind spinning out of control. Primordial chaos is a still space, so deep and so vast that it cannot be named. There is no above, no below, no left, no right, no light, no darkness. Only an invisible, silent in-between. You can imagine yourself drifting in a space soft as mist, with no collisions, no sounds, no pressure pulling you in any direction. That feeling is both strange and strangely soothing. That is the very first state of the universe in Greek mythology. Out of that immeasurable, prolonged silence, a very small movement occurs. Not a thunderous explosion, not a blinding flash of light, but a subtle shift, like a heart taking one extra beat, deeper and clearer than before. The Greeks do not describe that moment in detail, but they say this: from chaos, the first beings begin to appear. The first is Gaia. Gaia is not just Earth in the physical sense, but Mother Earth, the soul of all that is solid and supporting. You can picture Gaia as an endless surface, soft yet firm, an embrace so vast it can hold everything that will later be born. Gaia is the foundation, the place to stand, the soil in which every seed of the universe is planted. Next is Tartarus, the deep abyss beneath all layers of existence. Not a hell in the sense of later religions, but the deepest level of being, where what is heaviest, darkest, and most secret is kept. If Gaia is the ground you stand on, then Tartarus is the depth into which things can fall, an invisible boundary reminding us that the universe does not only have a surface, it also has profound depth. Then comes Eros, primordial love, not romantic love, but the pulling force that makes things seek one another, join together, instead of drifting apart in isolation. If Gaia is the foundation, and Tartarus is the abyss, then Eros is the invisible glue, the heartbeat that keeps the universe from standing still and turns it toward connection. After that comes Nyx, night, and Erebus, the darkness of the deep. From night and darkness there arise Aether, the pure air that the gods breathe, and Hemera, day. So even in its first steps, Greek mythology sketches a very gentle cycle. Night and day, dark and light, heavy and light, above and below. When we hear these images, we might easily think they are just stories. But if we slow down a little, we will realize that the Greeks are talking about things very close to our own lives. Before we can arrange our life, we too must pass through confusion. Before we can stand firm, we need a ground beneath us. Before we can love and truly connect with others, we need an inner pulling force, like Eros. The story goes on. Gaia, Mother Earth, does not lie still. She carries within herself an endless capacity to give birth. From her own body she brings forth Uranus, the starry sky. Uranus is both her child and her partner. When he stretches himself to cover her, the world for the first time has a ceiling and a floor. and a space between sky and earth where everything else can appear. Gaia gives birth to mountain ranges, peaks that reach straight into the sky, like columns linking the two realms. She gives birth to Pontus, the sea, so that the low places can be filled with water, so that the earth has a surface to reflect the sky, so that the world is not so dry and hard. Sky and earth embrace one another, mountains rise, seas spread out. There is no noise, no war, only layers of existence gradually stacking one upon another, like each of our own breaths in and out, building up a day of life. From the union of Gaia and Uranus, a new generation of gods is born, the Titans. The Titans are not savage warriors, but vast forces of the universe. Light, memory, order, cycle, the sun, the moon. They are the qualities of the world turned into beings. Hyperion, light. Theia, radiance. Mnemosyne, memory. Themis, natural order and law. Oceanus, the river that encircles the world. Kronos, time, the youngest, and the one who will hold the destiny of the future. It is fascinating that the Greeks chose gods to speak about things so abstract. Instead of saying, time passes, they tell of Kronos walking. Instead of saying there are universal laws, they tell of Themis keeping the balance. Instead of saying light shines down, they tell of Hyperion carrying the sun across the sky. It is a beautiful way to tell a story, turning the world into a family. And when the world is a family, we suddenly feel a little less lonely in this vast universe. But every family has its conflicts, and Greek mythology does not shy away from that. They describe Uranus, the sky, gradually becoming too closed off. He fears the strange children that Gaia gives birth to after the Titans, the one-eyed Cyclopes, the 100-handed Hecatoncheires. Uranus is afraid that these forces will disturb the order he controls. So he presses them deep into the earth, refusing to let them step into the light. Gaia begins to suffer, not only because her body is being compressed, but because her own children are imprisoned. Here, the myth speaks of imbalance. When one force, whether it is the sky, power, or even protection, holds too tightly, the world no longer has room to grow. The earth cannot breathe. New forces cannot be born. Everything is stuck. In our own lives, we also have Uranuses like that, fears, habits, old rules that once protected us, but if held onto for too long, become burdens. We fear trying new things, fear changing jobs, fear loving again, fear making mistakes. All the new possibilities within us are imprisoned beneath the thick layers of fear and control. But the myth does not stop there. Gaia, in her quiet, throbbing pain, decides to do something very important. She will not endure forever. She creates a sickle of stone, not to sow war, but to end an ancient order that has become too cramped. She calls the Titans to her and asks, "Among you, who dares to stand up and change things?" Most of them are silent. They fear the power of Uranus. They are afraid to go against the sky that covers them. Only Kronos, the youngest Titan, the one bound to time, takes up the sickle. The moment Kronos rises is not just a revolt. It is a symbol that time always comes to transform systems that have grown obsolete. No order, no matter how great, can keep everything forever in its old shape. Within each of us, there is also such a little Kronos. A part of us always whispers, "It is time to let the old things go. Time to end a chapter, even if that chapter was once very beautiful." But to hear that whisper, we need courage. Kronos overthrows Uranus. The sky no longer presses heavily on the earth. From that moment on, there is just enough distance for the world to breathe. This is not the victory of a child over a father, but the victory of maturity over fear, of change over closedness. From the drops of Uranus's blood that fall on the earth, the myth says that other beings are born. The Erinyes, goddesses who punish those who break their oaths, the Gigantes, giants, and the Meliae, nymphs of the ash trees. From pain, new principles of justice, strength, and life are formed. From the severed part of Uranus thrown into the sea, the white foam slowly gathers into a shape. That is Aphrodite, goddess of beauty and love. It is a strange detail, but also a very profound one. Even in ruin, the world can give birth to beauty. From separations and wounds, the Greeks say, gentle things can still blossom. After Uranus withdraws, Kronos becomes the ruling god. The age of the Titans begins. According to legend, this age will later be remembered as a golden age of humankind, when people live in harmony, when there is no war, no excessive greed, when crops are plentiful, and no one has to toil in hardship. With Kronos in power, Gaia's pain eases, and sky and earth are in better balance. The universe seems to step into a peaceful youth. But then a prophecy is spoken. Before leaving, Uranus has cursed that just as he was overthrown by his child, Kronos will in turn be overthrown by his own child. The seed of fear is sown again. Kronos, the symbol of time, begins to fear the future. He marries Rhea, a gentle Titaness, and they have children. Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon. Each child is born carrying within them the potential to become a new force of the universe. But Kronos does not see hope in them. He sees only threat. And every time Rhea bears a child, Kronos does something cruel that the myth describes very clearly. He swallows each child into his belly so that they will never grow large enough to threaten him. If we set aside the violence for a moment, we will see a very familiar lesson. When we are too afraid of losing control, we unconsciously swallow every new opportunity in our life. A new idea appears. We stamp it out. A new relationship comes. We worry and let it pass. A new chance arrives. We hide behind the excuse of safety. We become the Kronos of our own life, using fear of the future to kill the present. Rhea is in agony. Time after time she carries a child, but before the baby can even cry, her husband has swallowed it. On a symbolic level, this is the pain of every creator, every mother of something new, whose work is suffocated by an old system. When she is pregnant with their sixth child, Rhea decides she will endure no more. She is carrying Zeus. When the time of birth comes, she does not go to Kronos. Instead, she flees to the island of Crete, a distant place of mountain caves, forests, and gentle shepherds. There, beneath thick leaves and beside the murmur of a spring, Zeus is born in secret. No palace, no throne, only the arms of a mother and the wild beings of the forest. Amalthea, the sacred goat, nourishes Zeus with her milk. The Curates, warrior dancers, clash their shields and strike their spears, creating a clamor to drown out the baby's cries so that Kronos will not hear. Rhea returns carrying a stone wrapped in cloth, and gives it to Kronos as if it were the newborn child. Kronos swallows it without a second thought. In his eyes, everything is a threat. Everything must be buried before it can grow. Zeus grows up in the mountain cave, amid mist and wind. No books, no throne. But he has time to observe. He has nature to listen to. He has streams in which to see his reflection. A future king, before he learns to rule, must first learn to listen to the world. This, too, is a lesson for us. Those hidden periods that seem like a waste are in fact the times when we are deepening ourselves. No one grows by leaping straight to the summit. Everyone needs a season in the cave, the quiet stretches, the times when we feel forgotten. When Zeus reaches adulthood, Gaia and Rhea begin to whisper a plan to reorder the world once more. But this time, not merely to overthrow, but to create a new balance in which every generation has a place, and is not swallowed by the fears of the generation before. Zeus returns in disguise and approaches Kronos. With the help of Metis, goddess of wisdom and cunning, Zeus gives Kronos a potion that forces him to vomit up all he has swallowed, and one by one, Kronos' children are freed. Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon. They step out, no longer infants, but fully formed beings, carrying within them the power that has been building up during all their years of imprisonment. It is a beautiful image, parts of ourselves long buried in darkness, finally returning to the light. Old dreams, forgotten abilities, aspects of who we are that we have swallowed out of fear. All of these too can one day be called back, allowed to stand up, allowed to live again. After that, Zeus and his siblings stand before a universe, waiting for a new order. The myth tells of a long war between the new generation and the Titans, but if we look at it symbolically, it is the process by which the world shifts from raw, primordial forces to a more conscious system, with laws and clearly divided realms, sky, sea, underworld, earth. When the new balance is established, Zeus becomes the chief god. Poseidon rules the seas. Hades governs the underworld. Gaia no longer groans in pain. Sky and earth keep just enough distance that mountains are not crushed, and trees can grow. The universe now has shape, structure, levels, and layers. There is a place for light to pass through, a place for darkness to dwell, a place for souls to rest, a place for the sea to beat against the shore, a place for clouds to drift over mountain peaks. In Greek mythology, this is only the beginning. Humans have not yet appeared. Heroes are not yet born. Troy has not yet been built. But the foundation for all those stories has been laid by these first movements. If we look closely, the entire process of the universe's formation in Greek myth resembles the journey of a human being growing up. First comes chaos, like a childhood in which we do not yet know who we are, when everything is still vague. Then Gaia, we begin to feel an inner ground, an inner strength. Then Uranus, we form beliefs, the skies that shelter us. Then the Titans, our qualities, our character, our memories, our inner rules appear. Then Kronos, we learn about time, about maturity, about responsibility. Then Zeus, we begin to choose, to dare to change, to dare to break old patterns in order to find a way of living truer to ourselves. Each time a generation of gods changes, it is not to destroy everything that came before, but to rearrange it. Gaia is still there. The sky is still there. Mountains, seas, and abyss are still there. Only the way they operate has changed. So it is in life. We cannot erase the past. We can only learn to rearrange it, so that pains, memories, mistakes, successes, old relationships, all lie in their proper places, not crushing the present, but not being denied either. The universe in Greek mythology does not begin with a grand battle. It begins with silence, then connection, then imbalance, then the courage to change, then the reordering of everything. If you are in a chaotic phase of your life, perhaps you are in chaos. If you feel you need to find a place to stand, perhaps you are searching for Gaia. If you feel crushed under responsibilities, old habits, and fears, you may be living beneath a sky like Uranus, holding you too tightly. If you are starting to hear a voice inside asking for change, then maybe your Kronos has arrived. And if you dare to stand up and ask yourself, how do I want to live in a way that is true to myself? Perhaps the Zeus within you is getting ready to appear. These myths do not ask us to believe. They invite us to reflect on ourselves, to reflect on the world. When we see the universe as a story retelling the journey of the soul, we feel far less alone. Because it turns out that, from ancient times, the Greeks were already wrestling with the same questions we have now. How do we grow up? How do we change without destroying ourselves? How do we live in harmony with the powerful forces pulling us from within and without? And their answer was the stories of the gods. As for us, when we listen again, we can choose to turn them into gentle lullabies, so that each night, amid all the clutter of life, we can slowly remind ourselves of one simple thing. This universe began from an empty space. Our lives did too. And from that emptiness, anything can be born, if we are quiet enough to listen, brave enough to change, and patient enough to let time rearrange everything.